Welcome to The Deep Dive, the show where we take a stack of sources, articles, and research and really try to distill them into the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight, custom tailored for you, our curious listener.
Glad to be diving in.
Today, we're plunging into a concept that feels almost, well, hardwired into our collective consciousness. It's a narrative trope as ancient as storytelling itself. The wax-on, wax-off phenomenon.
Ah, yes, you know the drill, right? That classic mentor-student dynamic.
Exactly, where the wise teacher assigns a task that, on the surface appears utterly pointless, maybe even a bit demeaning.
Right, only for it to secretly build foundational skills, resilience, and a really profound shift in mindset. It's not what it looks like at first glance.
It's truly remarkable how ubiquitous this archetype is across some genres. You see it everywhere, from gritty martial arts sagas to heartwarming animated tales.
Absolutely. Think about Mr. Miyagi, right? Perpetually assigning these seemingly mundane chores to Daniel San in The Karate Kid. Painting fences, waxing cars.
Hours and hours of it.
Or Master Shifu in Kung Fu Panda, employing those utterly bizarre training methods for Po. Chasing dumplings, that sort of thing. Initially looks like pure torment.
Yeah, we're just making fun of him.
And even the more subtle stuff, like the life lessons Big Z imparts to Cody in Surf's Up, it's done through slow, casual activities, not direct competition.
Right, so it's not just about physical repetition, is it?
Not at all. These are meticulously designed, really, to cultivate deep-seated patience, instill genuine humility, sharpen attentiveness. They're preparing the student for something far grander than they initially conceive. It's like a psychological crucible disguised as a chore.
Exactly. And for you, our discerning listener, who is always seeking to gain knowledge quickly yet thoroughly, our mission today is to truly unpack that intricate, often mysterious relationship between mentor and student.
Especially when we grapple with the often elusive concept of wisdom itself, it's slippery.
We're going to pull back the curtain on these compelling cinematic depictions and then starkly compare them with the complex challenges we face in navigating wisdom in our own real lives.
Our deep dive into the source material really illuminates those sometimes subtle, sometimes explosive aha moments of wisdom. It helps us distinguish the crucial differences between just having factual knowledge and genuine lived insight.
That's a key distinction.
And it also powerfully highlights why true wisdom so often feels fundamentally at odds with the breakneck pace and relentless consumerism of our modern culture.
There's definitely a tension there.
We'll be thoroughly exploring the inherent tension between the myth of the chosen one that Hollywood loves to portray,
Always the chosen one.
and the far more common reality of the common many who, in real life, rarely get the cinematic spotlight or that preordained heroic arc.
So the million-dollar question becomes, how do we discern authentic wisdom in a world absolutely saturated with information, where every click promises a quick fix and every influencer claims to have the answer?
Yeah, how do you sort through the noise?
It's time to truly unpack this labyrinthine topic.
Okay, let's start by meticulously defining this pervasive narrative device. The wax-on, wax-off device, as you so aptly termed it, is basically a storytelling tool. A mentor assigns a task that, on the surface, seems incredibly odd, or relentlessly repetitive, or even utterly pointless to the student.
Like digging a hole and filling it back in almost.
Right. Think of it as a form of concealed training, a curriculum hidden in plain sight.
And the true brilliance, the secret twist that makes these stories so enduring, is that these seemingly trivial tasks are, in fact, meticulously engineered. They forge foundational skills.
Often it's about building muscle memory, sure, like a boxer practicing combos in the air, but more profoundly, they sculpt a specific mindset.
It's deeper than just the physical.
Absolutely. It's about building an almost meditative patience, instilling a profound sense of humility by stripping away ego and sharpening attentiveness to the often overlooked details. It's truly ingenious how these narratives use the mundane to forge the magnificent.
It really is.
Yeah.
And we see this narrative mastery played out in countless memorable ways across various genres.
Yeah.
In martial arts and sports films, it's practically the gold standard for character development, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. Consider The Karate Kid, both the iconic '84 original and the insightful 2010 remake. Mr. Miyagi's instructions, wax on, wax off on cars, paint fences, sand floors. They all appear to Daniel San as Simple, tedious chores, right?
It gets so frustrating. You see it on his face.
Exactly. But it's later revealed to be muscle memory training for defensive blocks, conditioning his body to react instinctively. In the remake, it's even more direct with the jacket hanging drills.
Oh, yeah, the jacket thing.
The precise motion of putting on and taking off a jacket translates directly into blocking techniques. The student's frustration is actually key. It forces them to push through superficial appearances.
And then, speaking of animated brilliance, Kung Fu Panda takes this trope and adapts it in a way that's both hilarious and profoundly insightful.
It's genius. Master Shifu's training of Po often looks absolutely ridiculous, chasing dumplings, doing push-ups with chopsticks.
You'd think it's just to poke fun at Poe, or simply to make him miserable.
But it's brilliantly tailored to Po's unique abilities and his, well, inherent love for food. It turns his greatest weakness into his ultimate strength. The training doesn't force Po to be something he's not. It reframes and refines who he already is.
That's a really important point. It works with him, not against him.
We also find this principle in animated gems like Surf's Up, where the legendary Big Z teaches Cody about far more than just surfing technique.
Such a great underrated movie.
It is. He does it through slow, seemingly aimless activities like building a bonfire or just chilling on the beach. It's about cultivating presence, understanding the rhythm of life and the ocean, finding joy in the process rather than just fixating on pure competition and winning.
Yeah, the why behind the what.
And Cool Runnings offers a wonderfully inspiring example as well. Irv, the coach, trains the Jamaican bobsled team with strange non-bobsled drills.
Pushing that beat-up VW bus, right?
Exactly. Pushing a dilapidated cart through a field, practicing balance on a wooden beam. These appear completely disconnected, but they teach core fundamentals like balance, coordination, synchronized movement. Things absolutely crucial for the sport, but not obvious from the outset.
It's not just the realm of sports, though. Drama and coming-of-age films lean on this device heavily to illustrate intellectual and emotional growth.
Definitely. In Dead Poet Society, the unconventional Mr. Keating famously instructs his students to rip out textbook pages
Rip it out.
and stand on their desks. These aren't about learning poetry directly. They're designed to violently reframe their perspective on conformity, challenge ingrained assumptions, and foster free, independent thinking.
The initial confusion and discomfort are part of the lesson, aren't they? It's a literal and metaphorical shift in perspective.
Precisely. Or consider Goodwill Hunting, where Sean, the therapist, employs a method with Will that isn't about direct teaching or solving complex math problems.
It's very subtle.
It's about quiet patience, small, almost meandering conversations, creating a space where Will is forced to sit with his own discomfort and eventually open up about his deep-seated issues. Sean's seemingly passive approach is a strategic wax on, wax off for Will's emotional armor.
That's a great way to put it.
Similarly, in Finding Forrester, the reclusive author Forrester gives Jamal writing assignments that feel arbitrary, like copying passages from books by hand.
Yeah, seems like busy work.
But these tasks meticulously build writing discipline, trust, and a shared understanding of the craft, proving that the arduous process is often more important than the immediate product.
And then, of course, fantasy and adventure films elevate this trope to epic, sometimes mythical proportions. The Empire Strikes Back gives us Yoda.
The ultimate example, perhaps. The diminutive but powerful Yoda making Luke Skywalker carry him through swamps, do handstands, try to move rocks with the Force.
Seems like hazing almost.
Right. But these aren't just physical endurance tasks. They are profound mental and spiritual exercises, disguised as seemingly simple, almost tiresome, repetitive drills. They're designed to break down Luke's impatience and arrogance and build his connection to the Force. It's learning the spiritual through the physical.
The Matrix is another quintessential example of this.
Absolutely. Morpheus's sparring sessions with Neo, or the infamous jump program from one skyscraper to another.
That jump scene.
They aren't merely physical stunts or combat training. They're profound, almost philosophical lessons in freeing the mind from perceived limits. Morpheus isn't just teaching Neo how to fight, he's teaching him to believe that there is no spoon, to understand that his limitations are largely mental constructs.
Things that can be transcended.
Exactly. It was the ultimate wax on, wax off for the mind repeatedly failing, pushing against an invisible wall until the realization clicked that the wall itself was an illusion.
Wow. And The Last Samurai.
Another good one. Algren, the American soldier, is made to live as a samurai among his captors. He engages in slow, repetitive sword drills, participates in daily rituals and customs, all before he's even allowed into real combat.
Total immersion.
It's a form of deep experiential learning that cultivates respect, understanding, and fundamental skill beyond mere fighting technique.
So what's truly fascinating here, beyond the individual examples, is that while these tasks are foundational, they also function as a powerful narrative filter.
Yes, that's crucial. The sensei isn't just teaching, they're strategically testing.
And the story always shows the protagonist, the chosen one, as someone who possesses the innate qualities or eventually develops the discipline to handle the training.
Always. You never really see the pile of common people who fail over and over again, the anonymous figures who give up, or those who never even get past the initial, seemingly pointless challenges.
They just fade into the background.
Exactly. This is precisely where the narrative device serves storytelling so brilliantly. It creates that profoundly satisfying arc for the audience. An initially unremarkable character is tested,
Goes through the ringer.
and through that arduous test, they transform, becoming extraordinary, achieving greatness. The camera, by its very nature, focuses solely on the success, on the hero's singular journey.
Right. It rarely lingers on or even acknowledges the countless failed students who either quit in frustration, never grasped the underlying lesson, or perhaps, most tellingly, never even got the chance to begin with.
It allows us to believe in the singular special hero. It feels good.
And this leads us to a really crucial and often uncomfortable disconnect, doesn't it? Because in the raw reality of everyday life, most of us are, in fact, those common folk.
Very few of us would likely pass these cinematic trials with the inherent discipline and self-belief required.
We don't have a built-in soundtrack swelling when we finally get the lesson, nor an omniscient narrator telling us we're the chosen one.
No uplifting montage sequence. And that's precisely the core of the challenge we face today. Our modern lives are structured so heavily for convenience, for instant gratification, for passive consumption.
Everything's easy, fast, painless, or supposed to be.
We're constantly being bombarded with messages that things should be easy, fast, and utterly painless. So the fundamental question we must confront becomes, why would we ever go out of our way to practice discipline, to dig deep, to endure something that feels pointless or uncomfortable if we quite literally don't have to?
Why choose the friction when the path of least resistance is so readily available, even pushed on us?
You see this even with the pervasive issue of burnout. We feel overwhelmed, depleted from the constant demands and overstimulation.
Information overload, right.
Exactly. And our immediate, almost knee-jerk interpretation is that we need rest. But often that rest translates directly into passive consumption, endless scrolling through social media, binge-watching an entire series, or mindlessly avoiding any form of mental or physical demands that might feel taxing.
It's more like numbing out than actually resting.
It's a form of escapism, not true rejuvenation. It's remarkably similar to the analogy of physical exercise.
Okay.
If you start moving your body consistently, it's always exponentially harder to pick up the habit again. Similarly, if your predominant form of rest is merely to avoid any and all effort, then your psychological threshold for discomfort drops dramatically.
You get used to the ease.
Precisely. Soon, even relatively small acts of discipline like consistently learning a new skill, meticulously cooking a healthy meal from scratch, or simply committing to a regular exercise routine begin to feel absolutely Herculean, almost impossible.
What was once considered average, unremarkable discipline in previous eras now read as exceptional, almost superhuman commitment.
It's a truly striking historical shift. In older, slower societies, discipline wasn't an optional add-on. It was inherently baked into the very fabric of daily survival.
Just part of life.
Think about the arduous processes of food preparation, the physical demands of manual labor, or the years-long commitments of apprenticeships. Even what we might retrospectively call rest back then often involved effortful, purposeful activities like mending clothes by hand, tending to a small garden, or engaging in skilled crafts.
There was a constant, almost unavoidable friction in daily life that naturally built resilience, patience, and resourcefulness.
And now, for the vast majority of us in industrialized nations, convenience isn't just an option, it's the default. We can outsource almost any labor, from cleaning our homes to delivering our groceries.
Click a button, it arrives.
Countless tasks are automated, and any flicker of boredom can be instantly numbed by the infinitely distracting devices in our pockets. The very friction that once served as an organic crucible for building mental and emotional resilience is now entirely optional.
A choice that most people, understandably perhaps, simply don't make, precisely because they don't have to.
And let's be clear, we're not advocating for extremes here. We're not suggesting you need to become an ascetic monk living in a remote cave completely devoid of comfort.
Right. It's not about suffering for its own sake.
Nor are we endorsing the passive couch potato who never challenges themselves. But that healthy middle ground, the individual who approaches their work with intention, maintains consistent, meaningful habits, and uses rest strategically for genuine recovery, not just as an escape.
That kind of intentional living is actually becoming increasingly rare.
It is, and it's not necessarily because humans are fundamentally weaker or less capable. It's because the very environment we've meticulously constructed incentivizes ease, promotes novelty, and rewards instant gratification. It's a deeply ingrained structural issue, a systemic bias built into our digital and consumer landscapes.
And this is precisely where the cinematic problem we discussed really reinforces and even exacerbates this gap.
That's right. By consistently showing us only the heroes who effortlessly rise to the challenge of the pointless trial and pass with flying colors, movies subconsciously embed this idea that discipline inherently equates to specialness, to being the chosen one.
Yeah, if it's hard for me, I must not be special.
Exactly. The vast majority of the population, those who would realistically fail or simply give up, become background noise. They're not explicitly failed students, but rather just people who never even attempted the trial.
The insidious danger, then, is that when we encounter a real-life challenge that feels difficult, unglamorous, or doesn't come with an immediate reward, we might instinctively pre-label ourselves as not the chosen one.
We tell ourselves we're not cut out for it and quit before we ever experience the true, often delayed payoff of sustained effort. We self-select out too early.
This profound disconnect brings us to another fascinating yet often disquieting point: how popular culture can radically skew our perception of truth, especially when it comes to the complex interplay between genuine wisdom and the figure of the wise teacher.
Absolutely. Think for a moment about the cinematic ideal of the wise sensei or mentor. In a movie, this figure is portrayed as inherently wise, almost effortlessly so.
They just are wise.
They're rarely, if ever, motivated by money or fame. In fact, they often live a modest, almost Spartan life. They train pupils because they genuinely believe in their philosophy, even if it's deeply unpopular or not widely accepted.
We, as the audience, naturally root for them because they embody the underdog, the pure pursuit of truth against the superficiality of the world.
But contrast that romanticized ideal with the brutal reality of our consumer culture. We are inherently distrustful of anything that doesn't already boast sky-high ratings, a massive social media following, or doesn't immediately translate into a tangible, marketable product.
We need the 5-star review, the verified checkmark.
We're literally trained from birth to seek the cream of the crop, the easily visible, the popular, rather than the profound wisdom that might be hidden beneath the surface, demanding time and effort to uncover. Everything is streamlined, fast-paced, utterly commodified.
We demand quick, digestible solutions, packaged neatly and delivered instantly, like fast food for the mind.
Precisely. And if someone dares to offer something complex, something slow, something that requires sustained effort, our immediate, almost reflexive reaction can be, how could they not get it? It's so simple.
We might even unconsciously judge those who don't grasp it instantly, feeling superior.
When in reality, it's often our own view that's underdeveloped, precisely because it's so simplistic, so conditioned by a culture that shies away from nuance and effort. We're missing the profound layers beneath the surface.
Exactly. The calm sensei, the true purveyor of wisdom, understands that profound truth is inherently nuanced, demanding patient exploration. They aren't judgmental because they've consciously removed personal investment from the student's immediate reaction.
They offer an entry test, often disguised as that mundane task, purely to gauge how deeply a student truly desires truth, how willing they are to endure discomfort for genuine understanding. And in reality, in our modern world,
Most would simply fail that test, wouldn't they? Just walk away.
most would. Which raises a critical, uncomfortable question. Does this make the sensei wrong or less wise simply because they aren't marketable in today's attention economy?
If their philosophy were a real course, it might well get a barrage of 1-star reviews from impatient consumers and fade into complete obscurity. Too slow. Didn't get results fast enough.
It's a deeply unsettling paradox, isn't it? Because a true sensei isn't trying to attract everyone. Their entire focus is on finding the right people, those genuinely ready for the deep work.
This pursuit of depth over breadth seems almost antithetical to our modern metrics of success, which are almost entirely built on mass appeal and rapid scale.
And then the even more troubling question arises.
Yeah.
What about someone who genuinely deserves a one-star review because their advice is shallow, disingenuous, or even harmful? How do we, the discerning listeners, truly separate a true sensei from a false one in this noise?
Yeah, how do we tell the difference when the signals are so mixed?
You've truly zeroed in on a core fundamental tension here. The friction between authentic, often uncomfortable wisdom and the relentless demand for market-driven legitimacy. And you're absolutely correct. It's infinitely easier to identify the true sensei in a movie than it is in real life.
Because fiction gives you all the cues.
In fiction, the wise sensei has the entire narrative framing on their side. The camera literally tells us who they are. The music swells dramatically when they utter a profound truth.
The student wins the tournament.
And their pupils eventually win the tournament or achieve enlightenment, providing irrefutable cinematic validation of their methods. We never have to truly question if they're the real deal. The story itself ensures their vindication.
But in the chaotic, often cacophonous symphony of reality, we're navigating without that convenient soundtrack. That true sensei, the one who steadfastly refuses to compromise their message for marketability, might never even cross our radar.
And if they do, our first, almost conditioned impulse is often profound suspicion. Why? Because they tragically lack the social proof we're hardwired to expect. No viral videos, no millions of followers, no glowing 5-star reviews, no celebrity endorsements.
Their methods might seem unnecessarily difficult, agonizingly slow, or frustratingly obscure.
And they either genuinely can't, or perhaps more tellingly, simply won't, distill their profound philosophy into a quick, entertaining, instantly digestible soundbite. It defies the format.
Meanwhile, the false sensei, the charlatan, or even just the well-meaning but superficial one, can be incredibly marketable.
Oh, definitely. They're often charming, highly visible across every platform, and exceptionally skilled at packaging shallow, feel-good advice as profound, life-changing truth.
This creates what we accurately term the popularity trap. What's popular often gets uncritically accepted as true simply because it's familiar, we've seen it everywhere, so it feels safe.
It's simple, easy to digest, easy to remember, easy to share. And it's socially reinforced. Disagreeing can make you feel like the odd one out, an outlier.
And the danger here is immense, almost existential. Market success, driven purely by algorithms and fleeting trends, can completely mask profound mediocrity.
It creates a convincing facade of competence that consumers are trained to trust purely because of its visibility. Meanwhile, profound, nuanced wisdom, which often resists simplification and demands effort, can sadly remain in obscurity, never gaining the traction it deserves because it doesn't fit the fast consumption model.
It completely flips our perception of what's genuinely valuable, encouraging us to chase the easy sugar pill rather than the challenging, sometimes bitter medicine of true growth.
Precisely. In the modern marketplace of ideas, a real sensei's wisdom requires considerable discomfort, embraces uncertainty, and demands slow, often non-linear transformation. These are all objectively terrible qualities for modern retention metrics and viral reach.
Bad for business, essentially.
They don't aim for maximum appeal because their fundamental goal isn't mass adoption. It's deep, lasting transformation with the right people. They understand and accept that most individuals will simply fail the entry test, not as an act of gatekeeping driven by ego.
But because real, profound transformation fundamentally requires self-selection, a genuine hunger for truth that transcends fleeting interest.
Right. Which, in turn, makes them almost utterly invisible in a digital landscape where algorithms are explicitly tuned to favor the widest net and the fastest hook, the most immediately engaging content, regardless of its depth or truth. They just fundamentally don't play the game that gets them seen.
The false sensei, on the other hand, thrives by doing the exact opposite.
They strategically remove discomfort wherever humanly possible, promising rapid, easy breakthroughs that feel good in the moment and deliver instant dopamine hits.
The quick fix.
They specifically target the broadest audience possible and meticulously measure their success purely in terms of growth metrics. Likes, shares, followers, conversions. This doesn't automatically make them malicious. Some are simply entrepreneurial.
Sure. But it undeniably makes them inherently market compatible.
Which allows them to effortlessly outcompete, overshadow, and ultimately push ahead of the real thing in our current environment.
So if the external signals, the followers, the likes, the viral trends are so profoundly misleading, how then can we, the discerning listeners, truly discern a true sensei from a false one? What are the robust, reliable key markers we should be looking for amidst all this noise?
Well, while there's no perfect, infallible test and certainly no magic algorithm for truth, there are a few consistent, empirically observable markers that can significantly help you differentiate.
Okay, what should we look for?
First, always consider depth over speed. A true sensei will never, ever promise instant transformation or overnight enlightenment.
No magic bullets.
No. They teach principles that are designed to unfold slowly, almost organically, over considerable time, requiring significant reflection, iterative practice, and deep personal engagement. A false sensei, conversely, will aggressively market instant results, promising hacks and secrets to success, and actively avoids the deeper complexity and nuanced understanding that might slow people down or make them uncomfortable.
They prioritize immediate gratification over lasting growth. That makes perfect sense. It's about the arduous, often circuitous journey, not just the quick, painless fix.
Second, a crucial marker is a willingness to lose students. A true sensei profoundly understands and accepts that many people will simply quit because the work is genuinely hard, often unglamorous, or doesn't provide instant gratification.
They know not everyone is ready or willing.
Exactly. They understand that not everyone is truly ready for the deep dive, and they don't compromise their teaching to keep the masses. A false sensei, however, will constantly, almost pathologically, adjust their teaching methods, dilute the content, or even change their core philosophy to keep everyone comfortable, engaged, and, crucially, buying in.
Their ultimate goal is retention and scale, not necessarily profound, challenging transformation. Got it. What's third?
Third, observe for consistency without trend chasing. The core methods, principles, and fundamental philosophy of a true sensei will remain remarkably coherent and steadfast over time, even when they're not the popular trend at the moment.
They operate from a bedrock of timeless principles.
Right. A false sensei you'll consistently find will rapidly pivot to whatever is currently popular, whatever the next big thing is, whatever is trending on social media, purely to maintain attention and perceived relevance. They follow the market's whims, not an unwavering internal compass of truth.
Okay, that's a clear one. And
Finally, a truly profound marker is humility in authority. A true sensei, while they may hold very strong convictions rooted in deep experience and study, is always genuinely open to questions, embraces nuance, and doesn't need to be the absolute center of every conversation or positioned as the infallible, untouchable authority.
they welcome discussion, even challenge.
They invite genuine inquiry and intellectual sparring. A false sensei, in stark contrast, will position themselves as the only authoritative voice, often surrounding themselves with an impenetrable aura of untouchable infallibility, aggressively shutting down any dissent, deep questioning, or alternative viewpoints.
Right, the my way or the highway approach.
And here's the profound, almost tragic paradox you've spotted. In our consumer-driven, attention-based culture, real senseis are incredibly hard to find, not because they're actively hiding or seeking obscurity, but because our existing systems and pervasive algorithms are simply tuned to amplify the wrong signals.
The loud, the easy, the immediately gratifying, and the broadcast to everyone win the visibility game, while the quiet, the patient, the difficult, and the selective fade away, often remaining completely unseen.
Exactly. It's a systemic bias.
So given all this, in the real world, when it comes to the burden of wisdom, is it primarily on the student or the mentor? It feels like it might be a complex combination, but with the relentless interference of the market, that combination gets incredibly messy and unbalanced.
It's very much a combination, but you're right, the burden is distributed profoundly differently depending on whether we're talking about an idealized, purely philosophical world or the messy, market-driven reality we actually inhabit.
Okay, let's take the ideal world first.
In an ideal world, the sensei's core burden is to remain absolutely true to their philosophy, even if it's unpopular, even if it leads to obscurity. They need to communicate it with such clarity and integrity that a genuine seeker can recognize its inherent value.
And they must meticulously avoid allowing ego, personal gain, or commercial pressure to warp or dilute their teaching. Their integrity is paramount.
Absolutely. And in that pristine, ideal world, the student's burden would be equally significant.
What would that look like?
To remain genuinely open-minded, to cultivate a deep willingness to sit with discomfort, and to accept that true understanding is often agonizingly slow and nonlinear. They would steadfastly resist the pervasive temptation to quit the moment a lesson feels pointless, mundane, or unglamorous.
Understanding that true growth often emerges from unexpected places.
Exactly. So in that pure scenario, both play their crucial, equally weighted roles. The sensei meticulously guards the depth of the teaching, and the student seeks it with genuine humility and unwavering perseverance.
But in the harsh realities of our current world, the market interferes.
Significantly, almost tragically, messier because the market interferes at virtually every turn, exerting immense pressure. If the sensei attempts to appeal to everyone, if they try to cast the widest net, they risk profoundly diluting their nuanced, often uncomfortable message.
Into nothing more than universally palatable feel-good fluff.
Right. It becomes agreeable, yes, easy to consume, but ultimately hollow, a mere shimmering shell of the original profound philosophy, devoid of its transformative power.
And then the student's challenge is amplified exponentially. Because if they are exclusively conditioned to respond only to what's easy, what's trendy, what's already popular and validated by the masses,
They will rarely, if ever, genuinely encounter, let alone truly value or recognize, the real thing.
this creates a pervasive structural bias, almost like an invisible force field that inadvertently favors false senseis who meticulously optimize for mass appeal and instant gratification.
While genuine senseis who refuse to compromise often remain in relative obscurity, unheard amidst the din.
And the danger of this dilution is truly profound, far more insidious than it initially appears.
Watering down a profound philosophy or a potent truth to make it market compatible, to make it trend friendly, is precisely like watering down a powerful medicine until it tastes like sugar water.
People might enjoy it more, it might be more pleasant to consume, but it fundamentally no longer heals.
And tragically, they may genuinely believe they've taken the real medicine, consumed the real truth, so they stop actively seeking the actual potent cure, remaining in their illusory state of superficial understanding.
So a true sensei, even in our loud, fast modern world, has to possess an almost countercultural willingness to limit their audience, not out of elitism or a desire for exclusivity, but purely to preserve the undiluted integrity of the teaching itself.
Yes, absolutely. The unfortunate yet inevitable consequence, though, is that this often makes them look spectacularly unsuccessful in the eyes of a culture that blindly equates sheer visibility and mass popularity with inherent value and truth.
It's an incredibly uncomfortable, almost impossible tightrope walk to navigate.
Indeed. The very best modern mentors often walk this extremely fine tightrope with remarkable dexterity. They meticulously design the entry point to be accessible enough to genuinely attract curious people, creating a broad on-ramp.
But they simultaneously keep the deeper transformative path completely undiluted, demanding significant commitment for those who are genuinely willing to walk it.
It's akin to planting seeds in public soil. You know full well that most won't sprout or fully blossom into magnificent trees, but the select few that do will grow into the real thing, bearing genuine fruit.
It's about optimizing for volume at the very top of the funnel, but uncompromising integrity at the deepest, most transformative core. That brings up a fascinating point.
What's that?
What about the idea of an influencer with millions of subscribers who, by all accounts, seems genuinely well-informed, whose logic checks out, and who truly imparts valuable insights? Have they somehow found a way to bridge this seemingly impossible gap?
That's a great question.
And does the traditional concept of scarcity of students still apply to them, or does that become an outdated notion, perhaps even bordering on elitism?
This is precisely where we step into that fascinating gray zone, that dynamic tension between true elitism and effective scalable reach. And it's where a lot of modern senseis are operating with surprising success right now.
Okay.
Traditionally, the scarcity of students in a classic mentor-student dynamic was both profoundly practical and deeply philosophical.
Practical how?
Practical in the sense that true mentorship, the kind that leads to deep, lasting transformation, simply demands deep personal attention. You literally cannot have 10,000 disciples in a single dojo and genuinely give them all meaningful, individualized guidance that leads to profound growth.
Right, it's a logistical impossibility for true one-on-one or small group interaction.
Exactly. And philosophically, scarcity powerfully acted as an intrinsic filter for commitment. If someone was genuinely willing to show up repeatedly, if they were willing to patiently endure tedium, if they were willing to pay the often steep cost of entry, whether time, effort, or discomfort.
They were far more likely to be truly ready for the deeper, more challenging work.
Precisely. This traditional scarcity wasn't designed to be elitist in nature. It was inherently protective, ensuring the profound message wasn't trivialized or diluted by people who simply wanted the superficial vibe or the easy answer, not the actual demanding discipline.
But an influencer with millions of subscribers who is genuinely well-informed is doing something truly unusual. They've found a creative way to bridge that traditional gap between mass accessibility and profound depth.
Yes, they have. They've managed to speak at multiple levels simultaneously, offering surface-level insights and captivating hooks for the casually curious, but also providing deeper, more challenging threads and pathways for those willing to truly follow and commit.
How does that work in practice?
This innovative model is largely possible because digital platforms allow for what we can accurately call scalable tiered wisdom. Think of it like concentric circles of engagement or a meticulously designed funnel.
Okay, like layers.
The outermost ring might be short, highly engaging social media clips or viral memes designed for broad, frictionless reach, captivating initial curiosity with a quick hit of insight. That broad funnel then gracefully narrows into longer-form content, like extended podcasts or detailed blog posts, offering significantly more nuance.
And then the inner core.
And for those truly committed, the innermost circle involves exclusive, often paywalled, courses, private communities, or intensive, demanding workshops. This tiered model allows the initial spark of interest to be scaled to millions, while the true depth of the teaching, which requires substantial effort and profound personal investment, is preserved for a much smaller, intensely self-selected group.
So is absolute scarcity truly required then? Not in the sheer numbers of people reached, it seems.
Correct.
But scarcity in the level of commitment from the student is still absolutely essential for true transformation.
Absolutely crucial. You can indeed have millions of viewers, but only a tiny fraction of that audience will actually do the deep, transformative, often uncomfortable work required for genuine wisdom.
And if everyone in that massive outer audience consumes only the surface-level content,
the entire philosophy, however profound, risks becoming a mere commodity, widely known in its simplest form, but rarely truly lived, deeply understood, or integrated into one's being.
which is why even the most successful mass-reach mentors often subtly design hidden filters, whether it's demanding long reading lists, assigning challenging exercises, or structuring intensive, time-consuming workshops.
That naturally, almost invisibly, separate the dabblers and the wisdom tourists from the truly serious, committed students. The gate isn't locked, but it requires effort to pass through.
So when does this natural scarcity, this necessary filtering for commitment, turn into actual elitism? When does it become something more exclusionary than beneficial?
Good question. It becomes elitism when it exists purely for status signaling, where the implicit message conveyed is we're special simply because we're exclusive, rather than we're exclusive because the profound work itself demands a certain level of commitment and readiness.
So the why matters.
The why matters immensely. It also morphs into elitism when the gatekeeping criteria have little to do with genuine readiness or intellectual hunger, and more to do with arbitrary barriers like prohibitive price points, social clout, or insider connections.
Right, barriers unrelated to the actual work.
And finally, a clear red flag. If the teacher fundamentally needs scarcity to feel important, if their ego is tied to a small, exclusive following, rather than it being a natural, unforced byproduct of the philosophy's inherent demands for depth and rigor, that's where it often tips into a problematic form of elitism.
So the healthy middle ground for a genuinely wise, modern mentor is to vigilantly keep their core philosophy completely intact, uncompromised.
Use accessible on-ramps, like a compelling YouTube video or a viral thread, to attract the curious, but they absolutely never, ever lower the bar for true commitment and deeper engagement.
Except that most will engage casually, perhaps taking a single valuable nugget, but meticulously design clear, intentional paths for those who genuinely want to go deeper to integrate the knowledge.
That way, popularity doesn't automatically equate to dilution. It simply means the crowd is bigger, but the inner circle where real, arduous transformation happens is still there, vibrant and intact.
Let's now anchor these abstract principles with some real-world case studies of modern senseis who, to varying degrees and with varying success, managed to powerfully balance this mass reach with genuine depth.
Okay, good idea.
First up, Tim Ferriss. He's incredibly well known for the 4-Hour Workweek and his hugely popular podcast, The Tim Ferriss Show. His reach truly spans millions of readers and listeners worldwide.
Tim's depth gate, I think, comes from the incredibly actionable and often demanding lessons he provides. While his books and podcasts are widely accessible and deeply engaging,
Very easy to listen to.
right, But his actual methods, things like rigorous self-experiments, consistent journaling, or committing to deep work cycles, require significant, sustained discipline and an almost scientific commitment to personal development.
It's not passive consumption.
Not at all. His core strength lies in acting as a powerful bridge between mass curiosity, often sparked by life hacks, and much deeper ancient practices and philosophies like stoicism, accelerated skill acquisition, and meticulous self-experimentation.
But what's the risk there?
The inherent risk is that many of his followers, perhaps the vast majority, will stop at the superficial life hack level. They consume the content but never truly internalize the deeper discipline, the methodical experimentation, and the philosophical underpinnings that lead to genuine transformation.
They grab the quick tip but miss the underlying methodology.
Okay.
Okay? Then there's Naval Ravikant, influential angel investor, deeply philosophical entrepreneur.
Yes, navel. His now famous Twitter thread, How to Get Rich Without Getting Lucky, went viral, and millions have viewed his talks and interviews.
So what's his depth gate?
Nagel's formidable depth bait is that his core philosophy, which blends ancient wisdom with modern entrepreneurialism, inherently demands slow thinking. It's built on rigorous reading, profound self-reflection, and a courageous embrace of discomfort and uncertainty.
Qualities that simply don't scale or thrive in our fast-paced, attention-based culture.
Exactly. His immense strength is that he consistently delivers timeless messages, often distilled into powerful aphorisms, and he steadfastly resists any form of trend chasing, remaining rooted in enduring principles.
But the risk.
The risk, though, is that his incredibly potent and concise sound bites often circulate widely without their full, crucial context, making him seem like little more than a clever, quote, machine or a superficial motivational speaker, rather than the profound systems thinker and deeply reflective individual that he truly is.
Right. The nuance gets lost in the tweet. Next, we have Sadhguru, the influential Indian yogi and mystic who commands a massive global audience through YouTube, books, live events.
Sadhguru offers a highly visible and incredibly accessible entry point to ancient yogic philosophy and practices. Anyone can watch his compelling videos and be drawn in by his charisma and insights.
Seems very approachable.
However, his actual depth gate is immense. The authentic practice he advocates, the deep, often physically demanding yoga, the rigorous meditation, and significant fundamental lifestyle changes, requires months, if not years, of dedicated, disciplined commitment.
That's a serious undertaking.
The undeniable strength here is this broad, inviting accessibility to profound ancient wisdom that might otherwise remain completely inaccessible to Western audiences. However, the risk for some is that his highly polished, almost theatrical presentation can, paradoxically, lead to skepticism about his authenticity.
Making it feel too slick or overtly performative for those seeking a more raw, traditional experience. Interesting.
Yeah, it's a fine line.
And finally, Jocko Willink, retired Navy SEAL officer, highly influential leadership coach, big podcast audience, best-selling author.
Jocko. His principles, like his famous mantra, discipline equals freedom, are incredibly easy to grasp at a conceptual level. They resonate immediately with a wide audience.
Yeah, redirect.
But living them out, truly embodying them, demands sustained, almost relentless physical, mental, and emotional effort day after day. His strength is that he fearlessly communicates serious, often unmarketable truths like waking up early, working incredibly hard, taking extreme ownership.
Things people don't always want to hear.
Right. He does it in a raw, direct, and powerfully resonant way that cuts through modern excuses. The risk, however, is that some of his ardent fans confuse the act of merely consuming his content, listening to his podcast, reading his books, with actually embodying his demanding, uncompromising discipline and living by his rigorous code.
They are inspired by the message, but don't always do the work. That seems like a common thread.
It is, the gap between consumption and embodiment.
So with all these vastly different approaches to mentorship and wisdom, we have to ask, is there fundamentally a gate on wisdom itself? Or is it something anyone with enough effort can truly learn?
I believe, yes, there absolutely is a gate on wisdom, but it's not a physical one. It's entirely psychological and deeply personal.
How so?
The true gate is your profound willingness to endure discomfort, to sit with uncertainty, and to embrace slowness in a world that clamors for speed and instant answers. It feels perpetually locked for many because our modern culture's very baseline unapologetically favors convenience, demands instant speed, and promises absolute certainty.
These are the exact opposite conditions where genuine, hard-won wisdom tends to grow and flourish.
Exactly. The key insight here is almost poetic. The sensei can offer the gate, they can point to it, they can even show you how to open it, but ultimately only the student can actually choose to walk through it. It's an unforced internal choice that requires immense courage.
That's a powerful distinction. So given that psychological gate, have most people found wisdom in the modern world then? Or is it still relatively rare?
My sense is probably not, despite many genuinely believing they have.
Why do they believe they have then?
This conviction often stems from several key factors. Firstly, they've simply confused mere factual knowledge, knowing a lot of information, with true wisdom, which is about understanding how to live well, how to apply those facts to navigate life's complexities with judgment, compassion, and foresight.
Knowing versus understanding.
Right. Secondly, many have unconsciously outsourced their thinking, not just to trusted brands or popular influencers, but to entire prepackaged ideologies or the echo chambers of algorithmic feeds. It's the comfort of having someone else do the mental heavy lifting to tell you what to think, not how to think critically for yourself.
Letting the algorithm decide your worldview.
And perhaps most powerfully, they frequently get intense emotional validation from consuming content that simply aligns with their existing biases, which then feels like profound truth to them. It's a dopamine hit for confirmation bias rather than genuine, challenging insight.
So if we were to rigorously measure wisdom as the consistent ability to act with long-term perspective, deep compassion, and context-sensitive judgment.
I would strongly, though regretfully, argue that the modern average is likely lower than in many past eras, where life inherently demanded slower, more reflective, and often more community-oriented decision-making.
That's a truly sobering thought, and it leads to a fascinating hypothetical. What if, for a moment, we imagined a world where everyone were wise? What would that even mean for society? How would everything shift?
Well, the very word wise would effectively lose its distinct meaning. Wisdom, by its very definition, is inherently comparative. It stands out, it gleams, precisely because it's rare and profoundly valuable.
It wouldn't be special anymore.
A world where everyone is wise wouldn't be about individuals constantly outshining others or competing for intellectual supremacy. Instead, society's baseline would be so incredibly elevated that what we currently consider wise today would simply be recategorized as normal good judgment or perhaps basic common sense.
The whole scale would shift upwards.
In such a profoundly transformed world, the wise sensei archetype might actually vanish from our narratives because there would be no dramatic, inspiring gap between the average person and the enlightened one. The challenges would fundamentally shift from the individual pursuit of finding wisdom to the far more complex collective application of that wisdom on a grand societal scale, tackling problems with a unified, elevated understanding.
Wow. So to bring it back to our current reality, if a truly wise sensei somehow manages to amass millions of subscribers, that doesn't automatically mean they've miraculously created millions of wise people, does it?
Not at all.
And conversely, having millions of subscribers certainly doesn't guarantee the teacher themselves is wise.
Absolutely not. It seems we often subconsciously conflate sheer popularity or visibility with inherent truth, when in reality, these are completely distinct external markers that bear no direct correlation to genuine truth or profound wisdom.
Exactly. You've articulated that perfectly. A wise sensei who achieves millions of subscribers hasn't miraculously made millions of wise people. They've simply made millions of people aware of their existence and their ideas.
Awareness is not, and never will be, transformation.
Right. Likewise, having millions of subscribers doesn't automatically mean the teacher themselves is wise. It only means they've been amplified, often indiscriminately, by systems algorithms, fleeting trends, the viral nature of word of mouth that don't inherently care about truth, depth, or genuine insight.
These systems are optimized for engagement, not enlightenment.
We consistently, almost habitually, conflate visibility with credibility because in our pervasive consumer culture, proof often comes in the seductive form of ratings, view counts, and follower numbers.
These quantifiable metrics, however, are merely measures of reach, of how many eyeballs and ears are directed, not measures of depth, truth, or genuine wisdom. This ingrained bias is precisely why movies, with their carefully constructed narratives, often profoundly mislead us about the nature of wisdom.
How so?
In movies, the sensei's wisdom works perfectly within the tidy runtime of the film. It invariably culminates in a tangible, undeniable victory. The tournament win, the moral speech, the protagonist's ultimate realization.
The camera and the swelling soundtrack are meticulously deployed to frame the sensei's methods and philosophy as unequivocally correct, validated by the story's triumph. Their students succeed, and that success is presented as irrefutable proof.
But in the messy tapestry of real life, Genuine wisdom often doesn't win in the short term, and when it does, it's rarely as cinematic or immediately gratifying. Victories might be entirely invisible to outsiders, quiet internal shifts, or they may not even be recognized or appreciated until years, even decades later.
It's almost like wisdom isn't something you own, like a fixed possession, but rather something you tap into or connect with intermittently. Is that fair?
Precisely. Real wisdom isn't a fixed possession that one acquires and then owns forever. It's far more like a powerful, subtle current you can enter for moments at a time, allowing it to guide you, and then, due to human fallibility, inevitably step out of.
Even the wisest people can slip up.
Even the most profoundly wise individuals can act foolishly at times, swayed by ego, emotion, or circumstance, and even the unwise can have fleeting moments of deep insight or clear judgment. The sensei's true, profound role is to point toward that current, to show you where it is, to teach you how to recognize its flow.
Not to simply hand you a pre-bottled, ready-made solution to take home.
Exactly right. And this brings us to the significant, often invisible burden that the true sensei carries.
What burden is that?
They feel this profound, almost aching need to share what they've learned, what they've embodied, knowing full well in their hearts that most people won't truly listen, won't genuinely understand, or simply aren't ready for the uncomfortable truths.
That's an incredibly heavy weight to bear. And what's more, in our current cultural climate, an act of genuine generosity itself can, paradoxically, trigger deep suspicion.
Totally. If there's no visible transaction, no obvious price tag, people immediately, instinctively wonder, what's the catch? What are they really trying to sell me? This inherent skepticism is a constant, exhausting challenge for authentic teachers.
And you'll also frequently find that many truly wise teachers deliberately choose to live modestly, right?
Often, yes. Not because they're forced to by circumstance, but because it helps them consciously stay aligned with their core values and prevents their profound message from being warped or diluted by the pursuit of external status, wealth, or material possessions. Their lifestyle mirrors their philosophy.
This creates a stark, almost irreconcilable distinction between raw opportunism and genuine depth. Our societal systems, markets, media, educational institutions are almost perpetually ripe for opportunism.
People are constantly incentivized to mimic the external trappings of wisdom, to adopt the language and appearance of insight purely to gain influence, amass followers, or accrue financial profit. It's performance.
And the real sensei, the true purveyor of wisdom, is fundamentally uninterested in winning by those superficial external rules. Their ultimate unwavering goal is deep, lasting transformation.
Which is inherently slower, far quieter, and much harder to measure by conventional metrics. This very refusal to play the game, to engage in the competitive, attention-seeking charade, is precisely what can render them effectively invisible in a culture that is utterly optimized for surface-level competition, immediate gratification, and perpetual performance.
So then, at a deeply personal level, how do I know if I'm truly becoming wise? If popularity isn't proof, and even constantly asking these insightful questions isn't definitive proof, what about the consistent act of just showing up day after day, reflecting, practicing?
That's the core question, isn't it?
And what's the fundamental difference between truly documenting one's repetitions for genuine internal reflection and just?
Well, simply spamming for external validation. Those are incredibly astute and self-aware questions, and you're circling one of the hardest, most profound truths about wisdom. There's no single, universally recognized external certification for it. And most of the truly significant markers aren't visible to others at all.
So is asking these questions proof?
Not absolute proof, no, but it's an incredibly strong, indispensable signal. It demonstrably shows self-awareness, intellectual curiosity, and a profound willingness to confront uncomfortable truths, all absolutely essential ingredients for cultivating wisdom.
But they're necessary, not sufficient.
Exactly. You can endlessly ask philosophical questions without ever truly acting on the answers. It's akin to meticulously reading every book about swimming without ever actually getting wet and jumping into the water. The theory is there, but the practice is absent.
Right. And is showing up day after day, reflecting, practicing proof.
Again, not definitive proof, but it's another powerful, undeniable signal. Consistency in reflection and practice meticulously builds what you might call the muscle memory of wisdom, the deeply ingrained habit of pausing before reacting, of patiently revisiting your own assumptions, of actively and mindfully engaging with what you're learning, not just passively absorbing it.
Now there's a catch.
The crucial patch, though, is that showing up is only truly powerful and transformative when it's deeply intentional and fully engaged. Mechanical repetition without deeper engagement, without an inner quest for understanding, can easily devolve into mere ritual without actual, meaningful reflection.
So the core difference then between mindlessly spamming for external validation and genuinely documenting one's repetitions for profound internal reflection really comes down to deeply rooted intention and authentic integration.
Exactly. When you're spamming, whether it's content creation or repetitive actions, you're posting or recording primarily for sheer volume, for external visibility, or simply to satisfy the relentless pressure of an algorithm. The content tends to be shallow, repetitive, without evolving meaning.
And your main driving question is consistently, how will others react to this? Your motivation, fundamentally, often fades quickly when the external feedback or validation is low.
Precisely. But with reflective documentation, you're creating to meticulously track your personal growth and gain deeper insights. You're actively noticing, analyzing, and refining patterns over time, building on your previous understanding.
Your main guiding question becomes, what am I learning about myself or the world through this process?
Yes, and crucially, your motivation persists almost stubbornly, even without any external audience or applause. It's fundamentally for you, for your own internal evolution.
Okay, so for those profoundly important self-checks on am I wise, what are some crucial internal markers to consider?
First, your depth of engagement. Do you genuinely integrate what you learn into how you live your life, allowing it to fundamentally reshape your actions and perspectives? Or is it merely intellectual collection, adding facts to your mental database?
Integration versus collection. Got it.
Second, your openness to being wrong. Are you truly and genuinely willing to update your beliefs, to relinquish cherished notions, even when it's deeply uncomfortable or challenges your ego?
That's a hard one.
Very. Third, the scope of your perspective. Can you consistently see beyond your immediate comfort zone, beyond your ingrained biases and tribal affiliations, to understand multiple viewpoints?
Stepping outside your own bubble.
And finally, consider your impact on others. Do your actions, however small or unnoticed, subtly help others think or live more deeply, encouraging their own wisdom? Are you a positive influence, even quietly?
Ultimately, wisdom isn't something you own in a static sense, like a fixed possession. It's far more like a state you continually return to.
That's a great way to put it. You inevitably drift out of it, caught by ego, lured by convenience, or distracted by the world's noise. And then, through conscious effort, you find your way back. Showing up daily, consistently engaging in that reflective practice, makes that return journey progressively easier and more habitual.
This profound understanding brings us to the sensei symbol itself. Is it accurate as a fundamental truth, a universal template for wisdom? Or is it simply a matter of opinion and personal preference, ultimately serving as a useful, albeit idealized, symbolic metaphor?
I'd say the sensei symbol is undeniably accurate, but only if you rigorously treat it as a powerful mythic archetype rather than a literal, universally applicable template for how wisdom always manifests in the complex, often messy, real world.
Why does it endure so powerfully then?
It endures so powerfully in our collective consciousness because it offers immense clarity of role. The sensei archetype distills and embodies the quintessential qualities we deeply associate with wisdom. Unwavering patience, rigorous discipline, profound perspective, and an almost preternatural ability to see the deeper, bigger picture beyond immediate appearances.
It also provides exquisite dramatic simplicity in storytelling, right?
Absolutely. In narratives, the sensei's primary purpose is to perfectly guide the protagonist's transformative journey, so their traits, their methods, their lessons are naturally amplified, simplified, and tidied up for maximum dramatic effect and narrative clarity.
And crucially, it offers a powerful moral framing. The sensei's often modest lifestyle, their rejection of external status or fame, makes them an inherent underdog, which perfectly fits our romanticized notions of truth against the world, the pure versus the corrupt.
But where does this powerful, comforting archetype fall short, often dramatically, in the harsh, unpredictable realities of real life?
Yeah, where's the disconnect?
In real life, the context is often far messier, far more nuanced. Wise people might not, in fact, live modestly. They might be incredibly successful CEOs, cutting-edge scientists, or celebrated artists who have profoundly integrated their wisdom into the fabric of modern life.
They might even strategically adapt to popular trends or utilize modern platforms to spread their message.
Or they might not even desire students at all, preferring quiet contemplation. There's no guaranteed arc either, unlike in stories where the student always grows and triumphs.
Right. In life, many students simply quit. Many misunderstand the core lessons, or even more tragically, many might even misuse what they learn for selfish purposes.
And there are incredibly diverse expressions of wisdom. Real-world wisdom can manifest as a monk in a serene mountain temple, or it could be a dynamic CEO leading a multinational corporation with profound integrity, empathy, and long-term vision. The modest sensei is one beloved flavor, but it is definitely not the only or even the most common expression of wisdom today.
So, as a literal truth, the symbol isn't universally accurate. It's indeed one narrative lens, a powerful, comforting myth.
But as a metaphor, it's incredibly useful because it gives us a shared archetypal image to discuss the abstract concepts of commitment, the nature of guidance, and the profound journey of personal transformation.
And as a personal preference, some people will deeply resonate with that hidden, modest teacher ideal, finding profound inspiration there, while others might naturally find wisdom in someone more visible, more adaptable, and more overtly modern.
The ultimate bottom line here is that the sensei archetype functions brilliantly as a compass, not a GPS. It points accurately towards certain invaluable qualities: patience, depth, integrity, humility, guiding us toward what is truly valuable.
But the exact terrain of wisdom in the real world, the specific pathways it takes, can look vastly, bewilderingly different from the simplified map provided by the archetype.
The crucial risk isn't in using the archetype for inspiration, but in rigidly assuming it's the only valid form wisdom can take, thereby blinding ourselves to its diverse manifestations in everyday life.
So pulling all these threads together, what's the ultimate bottom line for us, the listeners, in living wisely in our own lives? Is the goal simply to find our own internal peace, to constantly reflect on our lives and habits, and honestly ask if we're truly living wisely?
Or if we're perhaps flawed in certain areas and could genuinely work on a few things.
Exactly. And then in response to that self-assessment, what do we actually do?
Mhm.
Do we look to tirelessly fix every part of ourselves, knowing we'll never be perfect, but striving to embody our core values?
Or do we risk performing an exaggerated version of ourselves for external validation while internally living a life we're secretly not proud of? That contrast seems key.
The bottom line you're circling is truly profound and universally applicable. Wisdom isn't about becoming the perfect, flawless sensei or achieving some unattainable, static state of enlightenment.
It's fundamentally about living in alignment with your deepest values, honestly seeing and acknowledging where you fall short, and consistently, consciously choosing growth over mere performance.
And part of that, crucially, is indeed finding your own peace, but not in the superficial sense of endless comfort or expertly escaping difficulty.
Right. Real peace, true inner peace, often emerges precisely from knowing that you're living your life in a way you profoundly respect, even if it's imperfect, even if no one else notices. It emanates from understanding yourself deeply enough to recognize when you're acting out of fear or ego or sheer laziness.
And it truly blossoms from cultivating the humility to admit, I could genuinely work on this, without turning that impulse for self-improvement into a brutal, self-lacerating self-loathing. It's a delicate balance.
Your reflection questions are absolutely the right ones, the very core of this practice. Am I living my life wisely? A question measured not by popularity, not by external perception or social media metrics, but by your deep alignment with what you value most.
Where am I flawed? Acknowledged with clear-eyed honesty without excuses, but also, crucially, without brutal self-condemnation.
And am I acting in ways I'd genuinely be proud of if no one else ever saw, if there were no audience at all? That's a powerful one.
And when it comes to the response, the path you choose is absolutely critical, defining your journey, striving to embody your core values.
Is fundamentally sustainable because it's rooted in genuine internal intention, not external showmanship or a need for applause. It bravely allows for mistakes, for missteps, and for continuous growth without the crushing, debilitating burden of needing to be done or flawlessly perfect. It keeps you firmly grounded in reality rather than perpetually chasing an idealized, often unattainable image.
Performing an exaggerated, inauthentic version of yourself, on the other hand, is utterly draining.
Precisely because it requires constant, exhausting audience management, a perpetual show. There's an incredibly high risk of becoming completely disconnected from your inner truth, from your genuine self.
And tragically, it leaves very little room for authentic self-correction or true growth because you're so heavily invested in defending the elaborate performance you've meticulously created for others.
So, the real profound work of wisdom isn't a final static state you achieve and then simply possess. It's an active, daily practice. It's the conscious decision to tell yourself the truth, even when that truth is deeply inconvenient or uncomfortable.
It's about consistently choosing actions that genuinely bring you closer to your deepest values, even in small, seemingly insignificant ways that no one else recognizes.
And it's about humbly accepting that you'll never be perfectly flawless, but you can always, always be a little bit better, a little bit wiser than you were yesterday.
If we were to compress all of this into one essential guiding takeaway for you, our listener, what would it be?
It would be this. The wise life isn't about unattainable perfection or flawless performance. It's about honest self-reflection, deliberate alignment with your values, and the profound, quiet courage to keep practicing, to keep showing up, even and especially when no one's watching.
What a truly deep dive. We've journeyed from the captivating cinematic myths of the wax-on, wax-off phenomena to the complex, often challenging realities of seeking genuine wisdom in our modern, consumer-driven world.
We've seen how true wisdom often exists quietly, personally, and without the fanfare, the swelling soundtrack, or the triumphant victory of Hollywood. It's usually much less dramatic.
And we've learned that wisdom isn't a distant destination to be reached and then checked off a list, but rather an ongoing, dynamic commitment to continuous self-reflection and a deliberate, unwavering alignment with your deepest, most authentic values.
It's a daily practice, an internal compass that guides you, rather than an external map that dictates your every step.
So as you go about your day, we invite you to pause to consider what seemingly meaningless tasks in your own life might actually be building profound wisdom right under your nose, cultivating patience, humility, or attentiveness in ways you haven't yet recognized.
And how can you consciously cultivate that inner sensei, that quiet guiding voice of wisdom within yourself, even without a spotlight or a cheering crowd? Pay attention, truly observe where genuine wisdom might be quietly at work in your own daily choices, shaping you in ways both subtle and profound.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.